Okay, here we go again. Everything is working. I don't need to call my audio engineer at all. And here we go with the play in music. You are listening to KPCA LP, Petaluma, California, at 103.3 FM and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. And this is the Midnight Skeptic. The views of the Midnight Skeptic are not, repeat, not necessarily the views of KPCA or any of its affiliates. Okay, this is October 26th. This will be the last recording of October. We're well into the fall now. This is the 26th, Wednesday, and this will be broadcast on the radio part of this on the 30th, the day before Halloween. And at 9 p.m., the usual time, KPCA LP 103.3 locally, and then worldwide, KPCA.FM. Okay, the views of the Midnight Skeptic being, as you all know, the correct views to have, I am sharing my views with the world in hopes of fostering a MAGA Head-free world of love, acceptance, kindness, and understanding. MAGA Head Republicans wouldn't understand about those concepts. In short, the Midnight Skeptic is proudly woke. Okay? And if there are any people out there listening to this who disagree or dispute my views, please let me know about it. And if you have any productive suggestions for how I could improve this show, hard as that is to imagine, send your comments, suggestions, hate mail, death threats even, to the Midnight Skeptic the Midnight Skeptic at gmail.com. Okay, there we go. And this is a brand new notebook. I filled up the old notebook with a year's worth of, worth of notes, and it was about a year's worth almost. Okay. All right, shout-outs, my international fans out there via Anchor.fm and Spotify. I'm on Spotify. The EU, about 10 or so. One person in Russia still listening. I wish him well, and you guys are having a tough time over there in Russia right now. Not as tough as you're making it for the Ukrainians, but, and a couple up in Canada, a couple in Australia, a couple in New Zealand, and blah, blah, blah. And locally, Tom Gaffey at the Phoenix Theater, Nariman, Mickey Huff, and, I made a mistake last show. Where you go to find out about his organization, oh, God, brain freeze. Jesus, this is embarrassing. Okay, let me just come back to that. I'll figure out who he is or what his organization is. Okay, Kevin and Lori, Dennis and Megan down in Tiburon, Stan and Kathy in Pacifica, Rich and Kathy over in Sebastopol, down in L.A., Jackie and Wayne and their two daughters, Melanie and Samantha. Arizona, my brother Bran and his wife Mina and their niece Andrea, my their daughter, Andrea, my niece. And Arkansas, Shannon Reed. And, okay, it just popped into my mind. Mickey Huff, Project Censored. Okay, please, all my listeners go to projectcensored.org. I last week said projectcensored.com. But anyway, and they do come out once a month. Okay, I promised my listeners last week that I would clear that up. I wasn't sure whether it was weekly or monthly. It's monthly, but there's plenty of good journalistic articles, free speech articles, and news that didn't make the news. That's their phrase that they use. Okay, in Florida, Amelia Beamer and Nelson and Alice Liddell, and then head of Dr. Dave up in the Raleigh-Durham area in North Carolina, and then out on Long Island, Geraldine Goldfinger. And then the Sonora people, Robert and Colleen Finnegan. I hope you both are doing well. And Fig, take care of yourself. Hope that digestive problem resolves itself. Bob and Sandy Fisher, Brad and Martha Fisher, and then Darrell Larson, Leonidas Maciel, Kathy Francis, Judy May, John Gleason and his two daughters, Jennifer and... Am I having brain freezes today or what? Maybe I need another sip. Tiffany and Jennifer. Yeah, okay. And then down in Mexico City, Rosamalia Negrete Lopez. Okay. Or Lopez Negrete. I'm not quite sure about that. Sip of coffee. Caffeine always prods my brain into warp speed. Okay, and takes care of most, but not all, of the brain freezes that I have. Okay, good environmental news. Now, I've been promising all my thousands and thousands of listeners out there that I would start every program with good news. And in the program with good news, which I'm doing, I've kept that promise for about 4 months now, 5 months, because I've had some listeners that have, I won't say complained, but mentioned that I should focus more on good news, and which is true. I really, really dislike being a negative Nelly all the time, and, I have to mention some bad news, meaning there's still Republicans wandering around out there mucking up people's lives and being mean and cruel. I've got to mention that, but I am just not going to let them drown out the good news that is out there as well. Okay, here we go. Good environmental news. Seaweed has become a symbol of hope in mitigating climate news. And on previous shows, I've mentioned this, that up at University of California at Davis, which is, about a 45-minute drive up Highway 80 from here, they have proven that powdered dried seaweed added to cattle feed cuts down on livestock burps and farts, which add a lot of stuff to the atmosphere. CH4. Oh, methane. Damn. I couldn't remember the word methane briefly, but I knew the chemical formula for it. But anyway, methane. Okay, it really does cut down on those type of things. Okay, and it has acquired the term blue economy. That's something that has worked its way into journalistic writings about this type of stuff over the last year and a half or 2 years. Okay, blue economy. What is it? Here in California, it is setting up seaweed farms for absorbing CO2. Okay, seaweed itself takes a lot of CO2 out of the atmosphere, and but when the seaweed is harvested and dried, and then ground up and added to cattle feed, which we're doing a lot of here in Sonoma County, it really does cut down on the methane emissions. Okay, it's gradually working its way into the larger economy here in the United States. Oh boy, these echoes in the earphones. I've listened to my own broadcast, and I tend to talk a lot slower than I should be talking, because of these echoes in my earphones. Okay, all right. Seaweed, good. And seaweed farms are now being set up. Okay, good environmental news, more of it. Scientists at Sweden's Chalmers University say they have found evidence that microbes in the soil and the sea are evolving to, you ready for this? Eat plastic. Now, I've mentioned this on previous shows 6-7 months ago, that certain biologists and scientists have suspected that microbes can be raised that do eat plastic. Okay, well, here, nature's helping out. Okay. Scientists at Sweden's Chalmers University say they have found evidence that microbes in the soil and sea are evolving on their own to eat plastic. The global proliferation of plastic over the past 70 years has given the microbes enough time to evolve to produce their own unique brand of enzymes to degrade the most common types of plastic that unfortunately mankind has just made and then discarded into the environment, which most of it winds its way into the oceans and into the Pacific garbage patch, or the North Pacific Gyre, as where most of it collects, just a bit north of Hawaii. Between Hawaii and the Aleutian Islands is where the North Pacific Gyre is. And it's a real problem. It's got to be mitigated somehow. Cleanup. Various companies, and I've talked about some of them, startup companies, attempting to clean it up, are just fighting a losing battle. We've got to find a way to, one, not produce so much plastic and let these microbes eat it before it even gets out into the ocean. It's just humankind is sort of fighting a losing battle against all the plastic that we generate. Okay, sorry to turn this good news into kind of a downer, but it's a step in the right direction, these microbes that are evolving to eat plastic. Okay, all right, enough of that. Okay, good news. Juniors in several history and U.S. government classes at Palmer High School in Colorado Springs are being taught how to defend themselves against disinformation. This is what Mickey Huff, here in California and at Diablo Valley College has been advocating for with his Project Censored group for a long time. Well, here's a high school that's actually doing it. And he does it in his communications class at Diablo Valley College. Okay, I'm off my notes. Okay, the students who were on the cusp of voting age, juniors in high school are 16, 17 years old. Okay, voting age, 18. Okay, they spend 2 weeks each fall semester exploring how falsehoods, prejudices, and opinions can lurk in the many places they get information, mostly online. They learn to trace the origins of documents, to validate a website by leaving it to consult other sources, and to train a critical eye on the claims made by TikTok influencers and on YouTube videos. If they're watching me, the Midnight Skeptic on YouTube, back there at Palmer High School in Colorado, forget checking me out. Everything I say is correct, and my opinions are the correct ones to have. So I'll save you some work and effort right there. Just believe ye in me. All right. Where am I? I'm off my notes again. Okay. Train a critical eye on the claims made by TikTok influencers. I'm not on TikTok, by the way, and I never will be. And on YouTube videos. The Midnight Skeptic is the only unimpeachable source of truthful information. All right. Conservative MAGA head politicians are trying hard to normalize hate. And, okay, I wrote down here more than 30 GOPers. I don't know why I did that. Okay, anyway, it meant something to me at the time. Okay, bad news. I'm sorry, bad news. Louisiana representative, oh, I know why I wrote that, more than 30 GOPers. Okay, bad news. Let me back up. Okay, Louisiana representative in House of Representatives, Mike Johnson, of course he's a Republican, MAGA head, introduced H.R. Bill 9197. It's misleadingly called, quote, Stop the Sexualization of Children Act. Okay, who's trying to do this? Sexualizing children. Okay, and he introduced it into the House of Representatives on the 18th of this month, which was 2 Tuesdays ago. Okay, it seeks to stop federal funding to any, okay, now here comes the hateful quote, stop federal funding to any, quote, sexually oriented program, event, or literature, unquote, for people under 10. It bars any topic involving gender identity or gender dysphoria, as well as sexual orientation in general, and, quote, lewd or lascivious, unquote, descriptions of human genitals. In other words, it's the federal, nationwide, if it passes, the Don't Say Gay bill. And that's why I wrote here, more than 30 Republican GOP members of the House of Representatives have signed on to this hateful thing. Um, that's what Republican MAGA heads want to do. They want to normalize the hate they feel for anybody that's a little bit different, whether it's sexual orientation or sexual identity. I read the bill and I didn't see in it that the dreaded CRT was mentioned. This guy is focused on sex in an unhealthy way. His name is Mike Johnson, House of Representatives in Louisiana. I'm not sure of the exact district that he represents, but vote him out of office this November 8th. Okay, another sip of my my favorite drug, caffeine. Okay, correct news concerning trans youth. You know, the ones that Republicans hate. The MAGA heads shout that trans youth always regret transitioning when they were younger and getting gender confirming care when they become adults. In other words, it's the claim of the stupid, ignorant Republican MAGA heads that when they become adults, trans youth regret being trans. Well, they don't. And here's the correct percentages. Okay, geez. It's not true, of course. Okay, just 2% of trans people stopped gender affirming care on becoming adults, which means that 98% continued on with their lives as transgender adults after transitioning when they were under 18. These statistics, excuse me, are from a study published in The Lancet, Lancet. It's one of the most prestigious medical journals in the world. It's from the UK, and it was published on Thursday, the 20th of this month, which is a week ago tomorrow. Okay. From a Dutch medical study. Okay. I realize that no MAGA heads listen to the Midnight Skeptic, and I realize that medical studies will not purge the hate, fear, and ignorance out of their Fox News-addled heads, but onward. The people that listen to this broadcast, listen to me, are not filled with fear and hate. And I'm just giving you some accurate statistics to counter, weird MAGA heads that you might encounter that says, oh, all these tranny kids don't want to really be trans when they grow up. Well, most of them do. Okay, there's always some exceptions. That's where the 2%, 98% statistics come from. Okay. Horrible news. Okay. And you got to be aware that this is going on. Arizona's vote vigilantes, some of them armed, are patrolling ballot drop boxes, hoping to discourage voting. The right-wing group Clean Elections USA is largely behind these things, these thugs. Arizona Alliance for Retired Americans and Voto Latino filed a lawsuit against them, and It's in the courts right now. And will the courts rule in time to, you know, get them away from these drop boxes by the time the November 8th, 2022 election rolls around? I hope so. And even if these people choose to obey a court order, should the lawsuit succeed, they won't pay any attention to it. The court will probably say something that these armed MAGA head vigilantes will have to, stay at least 100 yards away from a drop box or something like that. That won't stop them. This country, ever since the orange sociopathic bloat bag came down the escalator in Trump Tower to announce he was running, this country has precipitously gone downhill since then and become more divided. I've mentioned before that the downward slope of the Republican Party actually began in the beginnings of the Reagan administration with his idiotic theory of trickle-down economics. Remember the Laffer curve? Okay, I will go into the failings of the Laffer curve at some future show, when I have more time. I'm not an economist, but there's plenty of them that laugh at that theory. Okay. Yeah, I'm off my notes. I was ending that segment with saying probably not, referring to will the courts rule in time, assuming we're going to succeed. By we're, I mean Arizona Alliance for Retired Americans, which older retired people should really join if you have any kind of a kindness and accepting bone in your body and are therefore somewhat left-leaning. Okay, and Voto Latino also. Okay. Good news from Quack Watch. Okay, this is one of my favorite websites, and it's a medical information site by reputable doctors, and America's frontline doctors would be prohibited from saying anything on this website because America's frontline doctors, which includes Stella Emanuel and Florida's Surgeon General of the state, they are quacks. They should lose their licenses to practice medicine. If by any chance what I'm saying now gets to either of them, yeah, you're welcome to come after me. Okay, you are quacks. Okay, I'm off my notes again. Okay, good news from Quack Watch. Paul Norman Thomas, medical doctor, an influential anti-vax activist, must surrender his medical license to the Oregon Medical Board. He must also agree to never again apply for a medical license in Oregon. Among other things, he made false or misleading statements regarding the efficacy of vaccines to his patients and repeated gross negligence in medicine. Okay, and this is the very thing that was just signed into law here in California. And I forget the name of the bill or the number of the bill, but Gavin Newsom signed it. and it prohibits misinformation and, more importantly, disinformation from medical doctors. It was aimed at doctors like this quack, Paul Norman Thomas, MD, up in Oregon. Okay? He is one of the doctors, or the types of doctors, that this bill was aimed at. May he drown in ivermectin. Okay. Also from Quackwatch, evidence is lacking, entirely lacking, for bioenergy therapies in cancer care. Time check. It's been a half hour. Okay. What exactly is bioenergy therapies, you might ask? Those of you who are listening, the thousands and thousands of you. Okay, I will tell you. Researchers analyzed 21 randomized, controlled, placeboed, double-blinded trials of, you ready for this? Reiki, therapeutic touch, healing touch, and polarity therapy. That included 1,375 adult cancer patients. And these therapies demonstrated no advantage over the placebo effect of these treatments. Okay, let me tell you again. If you're diagnosed with cancer and you feel the urge to go to a Reiki practitioner, a therapeutic touch practitioner, healing touch practitioner, or polarity therapy, just don't do it. Go to a real doctor. Okay? Western medicine is the way to go. It is science-based and evidence-based. Reiki posits some kind of universal energy coursing through our bodies along meridian lines called chi, C-H-I, or ki, as it's pronounced in Japan. Therapeutic touch was a recent development. I believe it was in 1947 that a nurse, I will go into all of these on an upcoming show. Therapeutic touch doesn't actually touch. The nurse and other so-called medical practitioners just kind of wave their hands over the patient's body. Healing touch, they at least touch the patient, supposedly at points at which these meridians touch or cross or something, and they consider the energy to be blocked at these points. Polarity therapy is just a term for healing touch. It's no different. It's just another bioenergy therapy. It sounds scientific. It's not. Okay. Demonic danger in the 2022 election. Okay, what do I mean by that? At a recent Reawaken America orange sociopathic bloat bag rally in Pennsylvania, right-wing quack doctor Stella Emanuel, best known for her belief in demon sperm, urged MAGA attendees to pray that, quote, both satellites and voting machines be destroyed, unquote. She said this. And they all cheered and raised their hands. Almighty God, destroy voting machines and satellites. Okay. The opening prayer, and I couldn't find out the name of the preacher man that said this, but he got up in front of this assembled crowd of MAGA heads, and I will try my best to imitate him. He's on YouTube. The opening prayer was, okay, I've got to take a few deep breaths here to get into my preacher man voice. And he's probably a Southern Baptist minister, preacher, pastor, whatever you want to call those creeps. Okay. God, open the eyes of President Trump's understanding that he will know how to implement divine intervention. And you will not surround him with rhino trash or any of this deep state trash. You will surround him with people you pick with your own mighty hand. In the name of Jesus. Okay, now you might think that I'm exaggerating. I encourage my thousands and thousands of listeners out there to go to this site, and I'm not quite sure how you get to it. Pennsylvania Trump rally might get you there. But this is a direct quote of this dude's prayer in front of the assembled MAGA heads rally in Pennsylvania. And all of these people were raising up their hands to the Lord and Jesus. Okay. All right. I'm going to transition into an article in the Texas Observer. Okay, that preacher ranting dried my throat out. I've got to take another sip of my drug caffeine coffee. Okay, an article from the Texas Observer. Quote, "The Christian Right's Politics of Cruelty," unquote. That was their headline. You might expect that the rise to power of politicians who have overwhelming support from conservative Christians would bring to government the virtues Jesus taught, like, for instance, mercy and compassion. Instead, it's brought cruelty to immigrants, LGBTQ people, women who don't share conservative Christian values about pregnancy, and others. Those policies say, the policies of the Christian right, if you're not one of us, the hell with you. That's correct. That is their view. Christians. There are good Christians who are accepting and kind and compassionate and welcoming of those who are, poor and hungry and shelterless. There are those, but they are overwhelmed in the volume of their hatred spewing by the right-wing evangelical Southern Baptists. Fortunately, Baptists of that ilk are declining in membership. I've said before on many shows that the world would be just better off if all religions would just fade into the sunset. I apologize to sunsets. They don't deserve religious people to fade into them. Okay, all right, enough. I'm off my notes. Okay, 48 negative. Okay, what's that? Well, I will tell you. Okay, 48 negative is a splinter group from QAnon. You know, QAnon was a splinter group of the MAGA head Republicans, and 48 negative is a splinter group from them. Oh, how could they be any crazier? Well, I'll tell you. Okay. 48 negative, a splinter group from QAnon, is thronging political events of the orange sociopathic bloat bag. Okay, this guy, Michael Brian Protzman, capital Protzman, he's the leader of Negative 48. He founded this group, and a term they say is the opposite of evil. Okay, so if somebody asks you, what's the opposite of evil? Well, you no longer have to say the opposite of evil is good. You have to say the opposite of evil is 48 negative. I don't know where that comes from, and it doesn't matter. He, Michael Brian Protzman, has ordered his followers to again flock to Dallas this weekend. Okay. This weekend meaning October 29th and 30th, before Halloween. Flock to Dallas this weekend for the true culmination of his prediction that JFK will return to the site of his 1963 assassination. Now, you might remember that he made this prediction for JFK to return, I don't know exactly, about 7 or 8 months ago, early 2022. Well, it didn't happen, which doesn't bother him a bit. So he's made a new prediction. It's just like these stupid Christians predicting the end times. It doesn't happen, but that doesn't shake the belief of their sheep-like followers. They'll just make a new prediction of the coming of the end times. Okay, I'm off my notes again. Okay, for the true culmination of his prediction that JFK will return to the site of his 1963 assassination, 100,000, give or take, followers from social media, and they aren't physically present there, and he's claiming that number. I doubt it, but, well, maybe not. There are that many stupid MAGA heads. Okay. His social media app on Telegram. I'm not familiar with that media site. I don't particularly want to be familiar with it. Okay. JFK, when he does come back, according to him, would reinstate he says Trump. Okay, JFK would then reinstate Trump. I call Trump the orange sociopathic bloat bag, as commander-in-chief, and help him in carrying out the persecution of you ready for this? Global cabal of pedophilic, blood-drinking liberal elites that QAnon believes rule the world. I don't know. That is the kind of thinking or non-thinking that Trump brought to this country on his way down that stupid escalator in Trump Tower in 2015, followed by his Slovenian rent-a-wife. Okay. I'm done with that segment. The Midnight Skeptic hereby declares that Lara Logan, okay, if you remember her, she's the former 60 Minutes correspondent, CBS correspondent, and Fox News reporter. I'm telling you that she is certifiably insane. She should be locked up and put in a straitjacket. Okay. She claims, among a lot of other things, that the United Nations is sending immigrants to the United States. And she is fully on board with 48 Negative's claim that elites are drinking children's blood and Satan is in control of the planet. Okay, are you ready for this? Newsmax, which is even further right than Fox News, if that's possible, they have kicked her off. Their Newsmax has kicked Lara Logan off. And boy, you have to be certifiably insane to have that happen to you. Oh boy, I better speed up here. The MAGA Heads are coming. The MAGA Heads are coming. What was previously a GOP attack on school boards back east, in Pennsylvania and Virginia and Idaho and Iowa. Okay. In the land of the orange sociopathic bloat bag to institute right-wing book burnings and bannings and attacks on LGBTQ students has now surfaced in the East Bay. Here in California, California is basically a fairly liberal and compassionate and left-leaning state, but they've got a foothold here. Okay, by the East Bay, I mean the towns of Lafayette and Orinda and okay. Californians know what I mean by the East Bay. A 3-person slate of candidates to gain majority control of the Acalanes Union High School District in the November 8th election is running. 3-person slate. A similar slate of right-wing MAGA heads is trying to gain control of the Lafayette School District, which is a K-8 school district over in the town of Lafayette. These groups are part of a national MAGA head movement to flip school boards and institute conservative agendas, which is, anti-COVID protocols, anti-vaxxers and anti-maskers. Masking is not a big thing anymore, but they believe it is. Anti-LGBTQ students and anti-inclusivity curriculum. They've received funding from right-wing witch Jenny Thomas. Yes, the wife of Clarence Thomas, who I think spontaneous combustion would be too good for him. Okay, nationwide, the New York-based 1776 Project PAC, that's a money-raising thing, endorsed more than 100 school board candidates in Florida, Texas, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. In Texas, Patriot Mobile, and I've done a segment on them a couple of shows ago, a horrible Christian conservative phone company, has been funneling mega monies into Texas school board races with successful outcomes. Okay. In California, the MAGA Head GOP has launched this organization called Parents Revolt, focused on, quote, recruiting and supporting strong Republican candidates to run for local education offices, unquote. That's from their website. The three Acalanes slate members are Mark Woolway, Woolway, a Trump campaigner, Gabe Ledeen. Okay, I have an asterisk here. Oh, okay. Gabe Ledeen, son of Barbara Ledeen, a Jenny Thomas acolyte. Okay. Needless to say, he's a right-wing MAGA head. Okay, and the third one is Renee Nowak, capital N-O-W-A-C. All are endorsed by the Contra Costa Republican Party. Their website features statements like, quote, teachers pushing a political ideology, unquote. Asked for specifics by the reporter of the Chronicle that I'm read, they waffled about sharing different viewpoints and keeping politics out of the classroom. They wouldn't say exactly what their agenda is, but it is definitely anti-LGBTQ kid, anti-books, and probably, although this article didn't say it, probably anti-CRT. Local sleuths, meaning newspaper reporters, found a Twitter account from Rob McSorley, a retired police officer and high school football coach who is a Lafayette slate candidate. His profile name is Bay Area Dad. He posted diatribes about, quote unquote, lunatic educators spewing hatred, unquote, and, quote, absolute garbage about trans athletes and gender identity, unquote. You know, we have our share of MAGA heads around here. Not many, fortunately, but they're here, and they're infesting or they will infest our school boards if we don't vote against them. Okay. Lisa Disbrow, capital D-I-S-B-R-O-W, a MAGA mom running for the Contra Costa County Board of Education, says she opposes schools letting young students read about trans people and displaying rainbow flags that promote, quote, unlimited gender ID and sexual orientation, unquote. So if you're listening to me over in Contra Costa County, don't vote for Lisa Disbrow, capital D-I-S-B-R-O-W. She is a MAGA mom. Okay, keep them out of our school boards. Okay, bad news. Republicans want to cut funding for the IRS. Why? The MAGA head GOP claims that the IRS will just go after middle and low-income Americans. A lie. Of course, they're Republicans. The Democrats' climate and health care law, this one that was just passed a couple of weeks ago, contains $80 billion for the IRS. It will allow the IRS to hire more auditors to clear an enormous backlog of tax returns and upgrade its technology. The Biden administration has made it clear that small businesses or households earning less than $400,000 a year will not see an increase in chances of being audited. Large businesses, corporations, and the wealthy must pay their fair share of taxes. That's who the MAGA head GOP Republican Party wants to protect from having to pay their fair share of taxes. Okay, I'm not going to get through all of this. Wow. Okay, I'm just going to close out with an anti-MAGA head Republican rant. Okay, vote out Californians who are listening to me. I think there's thousands and thousands of you across the state of California that listens to this. Vote out the following Republicans here in California. Representative Doug LaMalfa up in Richvale, that's up in Butte County, up in Northern California. Tom McClintock in Elk Grove. And unfortunately, he represents the area around my old hometown of Sonora. All the Sonora people, please work against this guy, Tom McClintock. Okay, also vote out Mike Garcia in Santa Clarita, that's down by L.A. Jay Obernolte, capital Obernolte, and he's in Big Bear Lake in San Bernardino County. And then last but not least, vote out Daryl Issa, ISSA, and he's down in San Diego County. They're all for a nationwide ban on abortion, and they're probably, although they will never say this, in favor of banning books about CRT and LGBTQ kids. Okay. Please, everybody who's listening to this rant, help make California a purely democratic state. We don't need any Republicans infecting our government here. Okay. Whoo, boy. You have been listening to The Midnight Skeptic on KPCA LP, Petaluma, California. And we're at 103.3 on the FM dial and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. Support community radio at patreon.com/Petaluma Community Access. And remember, think critically, think logically, but live joyously, and most importantly, pet your cats. I apologize for ending this broadcast on a anti-MAGA head rant. That's not necessarily good news. I do have good news, but I'll have to end my program next week with that segment. And okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The next Midnight Skeptic will be on November 6th. Okay, I'll see you then, and have a good Halloween, everybody.